Karma. 1 year later, my daughter and I decided to try again with a dog. We went online and Googled mini dachshunds. A little litter came up from a rescue shelter in Pennsylvania. When I called and talked to the woman, she said she was abandoned in the woods by her mother, which they know is a mini dachshund, but the father is unknown. You're kidding. This is me and a puppy. I couldn't believe it. The woman didn't quite get my excitement, even though I shared my story with her. Didn't matter. This puppy belonged with us. It was fate. Karma quickly became my dog as my daughter ended her high school years and then went off to college. I rescued her, but she really rescued me. She has saved me by the simple but ever so tough task of keeping my heart open. Karma has become my best friend. She comes with me to my yoga classes and assists in my healing sessions with clients. She is a natural healer and is nothing but unconditional love. She is my soul joy. Thank God for Karma. She is truly a gift. Whoever said diamonds are a girl's best friend never had a dog. In a world where it's rare to receive unconditional love, loyalty, and acceptance from another person, it is nice to at least feel it from another living being. While I think that it's beautiful to find that love in an animal, I don't think we should stop trying to find it in or cultivate in ourselves or another. After all, we are here to love each other. Never not broken. If we've lived long enough on this earth, we've experienced some kind of loss. There's no escaping loss on the physical plane, whether it's loss of someone we love, our career, our health, our youth, our financial security, or all of the above. Our heart has probably been broken not once, but numerous times, maybe even smashed into a million pieces. We can let loss close us up and numb us to life, or we can let it break us open. In our country, we're not equipped emotionally and mentally for loss. Our motto is, put on your big boy pants and man up. Haste makes waste. Gotta get back to work. Get back into the swing of things. Get out there. Go get 'em. Stay busy, busy, busy. There's a Hindu goddess called the goddess of never not broken. Akhila Arvi Deshvari. Pronounced Akhilan Deshvari. I resonated immediately with this deity. She symbolizes the power and opportunity to be broken open by loss, heartache, and trauma. It is normal to resist change, but this goddess whispers in our ear that with change comes liberation. Change is freedom. With change comes liberation from our past, from our wounds, from our negative habits, from our stifling routines. However, she takes this one step further and proclaims the real power and liberation is in staying broken wide open. Allowing ourselves to flow with the currents of life and recreate ourselves anew each and every moment. Our vulnerability then becomes our strength, not our weakness. To be broken open for love takes courage, humility, and gentle strength to go through the fire. But through the fire is how one must walk. We can't go around it. It doesn't work that way. It's what we call in yoga tapas, or the spiritual fire. Tapas means to burn or create heat. The more you fire gold, for example, the more pure it becomes. Each time it goes into the fire, more impurities are removed. It's the same with us. It is the burning away and purification of all that is inauthentic about ourselves. The lies and the stories we tell ourselves, the inner fears and insecurities, and the walls around our heart. For my gardeners, just like with plants, in order for them to grow, be healthy and increase yield, the dead, damaged, diseased, or non-productive tissue from the crop or plant needs to be pulled out. Some plants self-prune, which is called abscission. I like to think of parting from negative people or boyfriends as abscission, self-pruning. We have to be willing to give up a part of ourselves, a part that's no longer serving our soul's growth, so the real us can appear, the angel in physical form. What are we surviving? My dad used to say I was a survivor. That was it. Nothing followed that statement. What was I surviving from? I can see how people in concentration camps were survivors, but what am I surviving? A lack of love, peace, understanding, purpose? Can that be just as detrimental to our well-being, to the world? Being a survivor in the 21st century has such new meaning now than it did merely 75 years ago when people were surviving concentration camps. I am a survivor, like we all are, from the disconnect from our true spiritual nature, growing up and living in a world that is so opposite from where we came from and where we will return. Now we are trying to survive the loss of meaning and depth to our lives. We are surviving the shallow artificiality of the world that doesn't support our soul. The sign I had on my wall for many years: tough times don't last, tough people do, served me for a long time, but I decided no more surviving. I knew deep down this was not why we are here, to suffer, endure, survive, then die. What was life all about? It was time to thrive, to feel alive, to feel, period. I was tired of being numb. I just wanted to feel happy. That's all I ever wanted. While you're on the path to awakening, however, it is easy to lose our way. Faith is when you close your eyes and open your heart. It's hard to have faith when everything is uncertain, but that is the way faith is cultivated. You don't need faith when everything is going your way. That's not when faith is needed. Faith is something we might not be able to see or feel or smell or touch, but somewhere in the depths of our being, it calls to us. It gets us off the floor when all we want to do is lie down and die. It gets us to that yoga class that you know somehow you need. It pushes you gently to keep going no matter how hard life gets. No matter what your circumstance may be, it is the voice that says, don't give up. You can do it. Help is on the way. Just please don't give up. I know you are tired and I know you are scared, but walk with me. Take one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. It will be okay. Faith brings out the best in us, our human spirit of perseverance and steadfast strength. Faith is knowing that no matter how bad things may seem or how awful or depressed you may feel, spring still comes, flowers still bloom, babies are still born, and people still fall in love and marry. Faith is knowing the sun will still come up in the morning, and angels will lie down with you when you rest at night. When nothing is certain, everything is possible. Faith brings the right people into your life at the right time, along with the right book. When I first started reading self-help books, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman jumped out at me when perusing the shelves at Borders. It was the title that caught my attention. I found it to be so enlightening that I read it 3 times in a row, then took notes on it. That's how I taught myself from books. I didn't want to be one of those people who read self-help books and stayed exactly the same, angry and unhappy. I witnessed this firsthand from a good friend. The first read I did was to get a basic feel for the book. The second read was highlighting and underlining, and the third time through, I summarized the highlights in my journal. As soon as my pen hit the paper or my fingers to the keypad, the information downloaded into my brain. Writing was learning to me. I love this book so much, I went onto Amazon and checked out all Dan Millman's other books. I had them all, about 5 of them, in my shopping cart, and then hesitated. A pang of guilt came over me. Even though I was buying them used, money was tight. To appease my guilt, I took one book out of the shopping cart and moved it to my wish list. About 2 weeks later, at work at Roslyn Savings Bank, one of my clients that I hadn't seen in over a year walked in unannounced and placed a book on my desk. It was the Dan Millman book that I didn't buy, The Laws of Spirit. And you question a higher intelligence? When I worked at Bear Stearns in Manhattan, the last book I thought I would ever get from a stockbroker who became one of my dear friends was Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. It sat on my bookshelf for 10 years until one day I picked it up and couldn't put it down. I devoured it along with all of his other books. I fell in love with Neale Donald Walsch, his story, his books, and his teaching. I felt like they were speaking directly to me. They have changed my life because they changed my perception about myself and the world. This happened to me with so many books. In 2008, my good friend and fellow yoga teacher gave me The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I started to read it but got stuck at the chapter on the ego, of course, and put it down. 8 years later, I went back to it, read it, got it, and think to myself, I can't believe I didn't like this book before. I wasn't ready before. My state of consciousness was not ready to receive the message. Awakening happens in between pages, lines, words, moments, conversations, meditations, in between life. It's a continuous process and a sacred journey, not one to be rushed, but to be savored every step of the way. All of it, the good, the bad, the highs and the lows, even the heartache and despair. Pop spirituality. I wasn't one of those fortunate ones either that had a near-death experience, life-changing vision, miraculous event, or spontaneous transformation happen in which my old paradigm was completely transformed in an instant. I also didn't grow up with yoga parents, have a personal guru, or did hallucinogens or ayahuasca. I had the complete opposite. I had abandonment written into every chapter of my life from birth until now, at 47 years of age. What I've learned is that there's no one single recipe or solution to healing yourself and changing your life. We are all different and have our own karma to work through. Each of our journeys is unique and precious. I have friends that have experienced the oneness and complete nirvana and have seen the other side, but still default back to their old patterns. Enlightenment takes not just knowledge, but the maturity, wisdom, mental and emotional strength and capacity to hold it. There is this new culture emerging. I call it pop spirituality. It goes along with our cult or culture that supports immediate gratification. There are so many people jumping on the New Age, heal your life spiritual bandwagon that it sort of demeans the journey and takes the sacredness out of it. While I believe that instantaneous healing is possible, I also feel that books with titles like 7 Steps to Instant Transformation can be misleading. They can make you feel even more like a failure if you go through the steps and are still stuck. No one ever tells you in self-help books that the process of healing your life and real change takes years and years of ups and downs, many challenges and trials and tribulations. It could mean getting your heart broken open and maybe even smashed into 1,000 pieces over and over again. It can mean many dark nights of the soul. It's not pretty and it's certainly not easy. From my experience, lasting healing is like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Like the game we used to play as children. Remember, Mother May I? But who would want to buy a book with the title, Healing Your Life? It's painful. It sucks. It will rip your heart out and smash it into 1,000,000 pieces and question your very existence. I remember one day sitting on the couch feeling proud of myself because I got through a few nights without being depressed after soulmate number 3 walked out of me. I called my spiritual friend, who was like a mom to me, to tell her about my accomplishment. She, however, did not share in my enthusiasm. Don't think you were there yet. You can go right back. Total Debbie Downer. I was annoyed at her, bursting my bubble like that. But she was right. I was right back down in the dumps the next week. We heal one part of our life, then it comes back around to revisit us, and we get to heal it again, and then it comes back around again. But only this time it's a little easier, and then it gets easier and easier as we let go and release our pain and burden. Onion healing. Maybe that's why we cry when we cut onions. Send in the clouds. Send in the clowns. Being gloomier is easier than being cheerful. Anybody can say, I have cancer, and get a rise out of the crowd, but how many of us can do 5 minutes of good stand-up comedy? P.J. O'Rourke. I've been a serious person my whole life. My sense of humor buried deep. I guess that's what happens when you are a sensitive empath, growing up in my world, just trying to survive and protect my big loving heart. I even have backup proof that supported my belief that I was sad. When I was pregnant, I had to see a hematologist because I have thalassemia minor, a genetic blood disorder, which the doctors did not uncover until I was 21. It took 5 years of doctor's visits to try to find out why I was suffering from low iron and fatigue at such a young age. Most doctors just assured me it was anemia and gave me iron supplements, which did nothing but make me constipated. It wasn't until I went to a doctor in Florida who asked me my nationality, and realizing I was half Italian, the light bulb came on. Apparently, thalassemia minor occurs chiefly among people of Mediterranean descent, and you thought only good food, coffee, and romance comes from the Mediterranean. Thanks, Mom. Thalassemia is caused by faulty synthesis of part of the hemoglobin molecule. The hematologist explained I actually have less red blood cells than the average person, and the red blood cells are what transport oxygen to the cells. On top of that, my blood cells are shaped differently than the normal. I always have to be different. When I first saw my red blood cells under a microscope at the hematologist's office and saw that they were shaped like teardrops, I thought, no wonder I am so sad. Even my blood is crying. And that, folks, became my reality. On a positive note, when my live blood was analyzed through microscopy 12 years later, the nutritionist announced, "Wow, I've never seen white blood cells like this before." Apparently, my white blood cells were making up for my red. It turns out I have a kick-ass immune system. Way to go, white. Silver lining all the way. According to the overall way that we interpret the meaning of events, the same situation may be tragic or comic. Physiologically speaking, in the choice of attitude, one chooses between anabolic endorphins or catabolic adrenaline. Power versus force. Kooky angels. Seriousness is the glue that holds suffering together. My friend Elizabeth Kiefer. As I started to heal, an unexpected thing began to happen. I started to laugh again. I found my sense of humor and actually began having fun. It was during one of my first angel readings that I became cognizant of my waking funny bone. When you go for an angel reading for the first time, you don't really expect the guide to bust out laughing. This is serious stuff we're talking about, right? Still chuckling, she said my angels were just like me, quirky with a kooky sense of humor. Actually, they were having a blast entertaining her with silly antics, imitating me in a loving, wacky way. She explained that our guardian angels can tend to take on so much of our personality. I don't think it's a coincidence that the word light, being light, and having a light heart all mean the same thing. Being able to let go of the seriousness and find humor even in the most tragic situations is a gift. I discovered how a sliver of humor, even in the worst case scenarios, can shift the energy and bring relief. I used to think that I was disrespectful, and of course there is a time and place for humor and laughing, but it is an art to be able to lighten up the seriousness. Laughter heals. The way I monitor my progress in this journey of mine is whether I'm laughing or not. In the end, it's all just temporary anyway. You gotta have a good time while you're here. One of my best compliments I received was when I was suffering through my abandonment breakup with soulmate number 3. My close friend said, "I know your heart is suffering now, but you still have such a sense of light about you." And most recently from one of my yoga students, "Truly thankful for having you as my teacher. I know you're in pain, but you're still radiating so much light. I'm always shaking at the end of your classes from the vibrant energy that you fill with the room with. Stay strong and trust the journey." That's when you know you have arrived, at least for now, when you can still be light and a source of joy even in the midst of extreme sorrow. If we take laughter seriously, we can take seriousness humorously. I make myself laugh more than anyone. I have a great time by myself. I read once in an astrology book from my date of birth that I might be the most interesting person I will ever meet. Lord, I hope not. Still, I don't need to be entertained. My life is entertaining enough. After all, the only person we are guaranteed to be with forever and through eternity is ourselves. We need to like ourselves, be our own best friend, and laugh at ourselves. I'm constantly making silly jokes and comments and cracking myself up. I do start to get a little worried, however, when I realize not only do I talk to myself, but I answer myself as well. That's starting to get borderline weird, maybe. Wavy gravy. We're all bozos on the bus, so we might as well sit back and enjoy the ride. No matter what your title, role, occupation, status, we are all in the same boat. We all struggle. We all have issues, dysfunctions. We are all a mess, and yet we are all perfect at the same time. That is the irony of the human divine condition. Honoring all of it is the beauty of life.